Most pleasant surprise of the year. We did not do so I have a few categories here. We did not do this at the beginning of the season. Obviously, some of these like you can't do at the beginning of the season, but these first two we definitely could have if I had thought about it.
Yeah.
Most pleasant
For sure.
surprise of the year. So I had a few jotted down. I haven't really come to a consensus on what it will be.
Damn.
Did you have a consensus on what you wanted?
No, so I was gonna say you go first, but then I'll go back off.
So I had a few. I'll just list, or I'll just say what I had jotted down. So the first and probably like the easiest pick would be Neptune slash Vancouver's resurgence. Just the fact that he came back into the CDL and has had as much success as he had, and that he to both of us, he's an MVP candidate, or at least should be on the ballot for a lot of people. Should be a second team all-star player. That's kind of like a huge, like that's just a feel-good story that someone could fight back into the CDL and have as much success as Neptune has had. Mine, you knew I was going to say something like this. The Boston Breach and Snoopy, from literally the worst team in the league last year to making champs this season. It was not always pretty, but they were very competitive for most of this season. They beat LA Thieves, who could turn out to be the champs winners at a major and send them into the losers bracket. They've had some really cool moments. They beat the defending world champion Optic Texas in the first match of this CDL season. And who knows, they might have been able to break up the Pred Optic roster with that one win, because who knows if Optic goes 2-0 that one week, if they're able to work out whatever differences there were. This is a smaller thing, but Mercules just being in the CDL, him making an impact as much as he has. The Carolina pre-roster change, they literally pre-roster change. Anything after that, I'm not considering. But Carolina, when they were as high as like third in the CDL, that was very pleasantly surprising.
Yeah.
Joe Deceives, another one, just having a great season. And the last one I had was Miami slash Super, having as much success as they've had.
Yeah. So I didn't do individuals. I was thinking it was a team based award here.
Yeah,
So I
that's fine.
guess but I had Vancouver or Miami as my pick, and
Yeah.
then in parentheses I did a early season Carolina as an honorable mention. So um if you pick either Vancouver or Miami, I would go with the other. If you pick Boston, just because you're a Boston boy, I think I would have to go with Vancouver, just because I really think that that whole, I mean, they literally they had Hicksy on the team, who statistically was, one of the worst KDs in respawns. Obviously, he's a good S&D player, not going to take that away from him. Um, but just the massive difference from the start of the season once Neptune came in, and we mentioned it even earlier, or I mentioned it, like the impact Neptune had not only on the team overall, but even like going to individuals. Like I really think Abuza and Nasty stepped up to another level once Neptune joined the team. So I love what Miami has done, especially since Super came into the team, and I'll always value that S&D play. But I'll just lock in most pleasant surprise of the year for me is Vancouver after Neptune joins the team. Miami, and like you, pre-roster change / very very early season Carolina as my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I was actually going to lean toward Miami, so I'll go with them.
Cool,
I'll lock that in.
that works.
Miami and Super coming in and being as impactful as pretty much any player in the league over the last 2 months has just been incredible. The fact that they have what we consider to be the two top rookies this season, at least in terms of voting. I think if you just looked at it, Mercules is probably like the most promising and most hyped rookie, but in terms of voting, they're probably going to be the top two rookies. And that's just setting themselves up for a lot of success in the future, hopefully, because Real was somebody who we considered for Rookie of the Year last season. Now they have two great rookies this season in Super and Rancor. Who knows? Like they're able to win. I said it on the last time, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago now, but I think they're the only team to beat Atlanta and LAT on land this year. So who knows? Sky's the limit, seems like, for Miami. Biggest disappointment of the year. not to be a downer or anything, but I jotted down a few things. C9 New York is one of them for sure. I think we both had, I not like championship, like I don't think they were going to be a top two, top three team, but definitely thought they would be at champs, and they finished 10th this year. They were not very competitive in a lot of events. I think the highest placing they had was top six, even on land. So not great for C9. LAG, I thought they had much, much more potential. Thought they would at least be competing for a champ spot, and in turn, they win 5 games or 5 matches, I believe, this year. So just a horrible season for LAG. Optic, the defending world champions, barely making champs, or I guess not barely because they had a really good major four, but like the fact that they went into major four and it was kind of up in the air whether they
Yeah.
would make it or not was horrible. All of the roster changes that they made this season, definitely the most directionless the Optic has seemed in a really long time. And then Carolina post roster change would also be my biggest, one of the biggest disappointments. I don't believe that they've finished above top 12 at any major with Rex. Granted, he had like 1 week's practice going into major three, but then they just didn't really do anything in the major four qualifiers. They finished top 12, if I'm not mistaken, at major four as well. And they have little to no momentum going into champs, which was very surprising considering where they were earlier in the season. So I will. Oh, I also had Black Ops 6, which was like a just this game. You've said you haven't really played at all this year. The complaints have been copious among the players, especially with the patch stuff that's been coming out over the last month or so. I will pick Optic though, just because
Cool.
I mean they're the defending world champions. I expected them to be in the top 3 at minimum, and they finished 7th at the end of this regular season.
Yeah, I had down Optic and Cloud9, so along the same lines as you, I think the post roster change Carolina, that's a good shout too. And I just thought of this when you said Black Ops 6. I would definitely, if I picked a non-team to to win this Eagle Chall award, the biggest disappointment would hands down be the Black Ops 6 maps / like the decisions around the map pool, because literally we've talked about it over these episodes. I think if you ask most people, the most popular map this year now across the modes competitively is Hacienda. It's not even a Black Ops 6 map.
Nope.
And this whole thing with them adding Fringe after it could realistically be added for competitive viability. So yeah, that's a slam dunk for me. Shout out you for getting me to think about that by just saying Black Ops 6 there. But if we had to go back to a team and you pick Optic, I wouldn't have a problem picking Optic. But realistically, kind of like you outlined, this like sort of, I don't know how to properly phrase it, but just they have the 3 back-to-back-to-back top 8 finishes. I think that would be, if the season ended after that, you give them biggest disappointment. I'm okay with it. But this, it's I don't think resurgence is really the best word, but I can't think of a better way to describe it. Just like what they've been able to do since Mercules and the recency bias around how they performed at this last major would kind of like push me a little bit away from picking them over Cloud9 when just looking at Cloud9 season in totality. But I do agree, it's a very slim margin there just because like Optics coming off of winning champs. They did have some outside factors with the Pred situation and everything around that working against them. But having back-to-back-to-back top 8 finishes, that definitely sticks out. I just think like you, for me, I would go with Cloud9 because I didn't have them as, we did the top. We said it was like a 3. We had the top 4 last year, and we kind of cut that down to top 3 heading into this season, which we did think Optic was a part of, so it would make sense to have them as most disappointing. But like right after that, I was thinking Cloud9 was going to be one of those teams in like that 5 to 6 or 7 range.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they didn't get there, and they didn't make champs. Optic did. So I'm leaning Cloud9, but I think Optic slash Cloud9 for a team. Biggest disappointing team of the year. Special honorable mention to the Black Ops 6 maps and map decisions for biggest disappointment of the CDL season in totality.
On a more positive note, favorite moment of the year. Things that I wrote down: Vegas beating Optic for their first win. Just an incredible turn of events for Pred to beat Optic and kind of lift Exnid and the rest of the Falcons out of the mud, at least temporarily. Miami versus LAT on stage, going chest to chest. Always fun. Mercules' run with the Toronto Ultra at Major 3. Hex scooting off screen after losing to LAG. Scooting literally through every single webcam and every single little cut was awesome. A killer tweet that I had not seen until this weekend from February 2028. Or February 28, not 2028. He's not in the future. Quote, the real reason I left gaming is when I realized that it was linked to the CIA, all the propaganda that Call of Duty pushes. I had to protect my family. And then he followed up, will delete later. So I think that has to be in there. Another tweet from Nadeshot this time. This was after the Minor 1. I believe it was after Minor 1 where they lost, or it could have been, I think it was almost after Minor 1 because that was the first matches after the long break for the holidays. Nadeshot tweeted, I don't want to see our guys log off the game until the first major. Clearly the foot was taken off the gas pedal over the brake. Figure it out. I love that tweet. By love, I mean I hated that tweet. And then I had two clips. Neptune trash talking during Major 3.
Oh my god.
And Scump and Imbo's reaction to it. Don't you ever...
Okay.
Imbo's in particular really cracked me up, him pointing across the screen.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I don't know if you saw this, was Scump lecturing Nadeshot about vaping and him reenacting what the vape was kind of talking to Nadeshot, and he said, suck me, Nadeshot, suck me. I thought that was a good clip to include in this as well. But yeah, those were my candidates, if you will, for favorite moment of the year. My winner, though, is Hex scooting off screen after losing to LAG.
All right. So you went a little bit of a different direction for me. I will say, after you pick those candidates, if I had to pick like a funniest moment of the year, I would go with the Neptune trash talk. That killed me, and especially the Embos and the watch party reaction to it too. That was incredible. So funniest moment of the year, if we do like a separate thing, that's 100%. I would go with that. Favorite moment of the year, I did like you mentioning Mercules' run. That's just, I mean, it's very possible we never see anything like that again. But I wrote down the scrap versus super thing, LAT versus Miami at Major 4 as an honorable mention. And then my favorite moment of the year was Major 1. I guess from a gameplay perspective, gameplay-wise, my favorite moment was just the battle between LA Thieves and Atlanta FaZe at Major 1, combining the winners finals and the grand finals, where we saw a reverse sweep in the winners finals, followed up by a 7-map grand finals that came down to a game 5 round 11. Very tough for like a combination like that. It's literally the maximum number of maps and realistically almost the maximum number of rounds you could see between a winners finals and a grand finals combined. So, on a more serious note, like gameplay, strictly gameplay wise, that's what I would say. That combination for Major 1 of LA Thieves versus Atlanta FaZe. But definitely the Neptune trash talk. I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot about that, honestly, and that killed me.
Yeah, I actually did write down Major 1 grand finals as well and forgot to say it. It was at the top of my list. So yeah, that any of those moments, hopefully we'll get a few more at champs or maybe over the next few weeks because some of these were tweets and live stream clips. So we'll see what happens. And then the final category of our show, biggest what if of the year. I love hypotheticals. both in traditional sports and esports. I think about it all the time. Like, what if the Cleveland Cavaliers had been able to trade for Amari Stoudemire in 2009? Does LeBron leave in 2010? Do the New York Knicks, if they didn't play that stupid Sopranos video for LeBron, do they end up signing LeBron and the big three, and they go to the Knicks? A lot of it has to do with LeBron James, of course. Biggest what if, I listed, I think I had 5 down. So one was something actually we talked about a few weeks ago. What if Toronto signs Mercules after Major 3 and he doesn't end up going to Optic? There was also the scenario that he signed with C9 New York, which was a rumor after Major 3 as well, before he ended up signing with Optic. Another was C9 centric. What if they don't play from LA this year? What if they played from Dallas or even Atlanta or something like that? What if Vancouver, instead of signing Neptune, signed Hook or Afro, like we were talking about back before Major 2? The other one was Neptune. What if he joined another team? At the time, he could have theoretically joined LAG, which would have been very interesting to see how that would have went. And another was Optic. Optic made a change and actually brought in Hook around that time as well. So what if Neptune had joined Optic? That is a very, very interesting what if. Another Optic one.
At that, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. What were you gonna say?
At that time, it was Pred coming back in for Hook because Neptune joined after Major 1.
Yeah, right. And then the last 2 were Optic centric as well. Optic, what if they don't go back to Pred after Major 1? What if they just keep Hook in the lineup? And then the first one is, what if Pred doesn't get taken off Optic in the first place? Or what if he doesn't get taken off Optic after Major 2 or whatever it was, where they brought back Hook and brought in Skies? So a lot of Optic stuff. I don't know of those, or if you had any others about the biggest what if of the season.
No, yeah, that's so. I wrote down. I think it has to be, but it's even a little bit before that. Is just what if Pred's initial situation didn't happen, and because from everything we know, that was affecting the first week of matches. Because as we outlined, they made the first roster change by bringing Hook in for Pred. Pred, steps away, goes back home to Australia, I believe, and all that. So my thing, I mean, that's the champs winning roster. So just in my head, what if that doesn't happen at all? The dynasty, or not dynasty, can't call it a dynasty. The champs winning roster from 2024 sticks on Optic, because that trickles down to where does Hook go? How does that 2024 champs team play overall? That's really, I think that's a no-brainer pick for biggest what if. But one I just thought about when you mentioned LAG, there were those rumors during the negotiations in the offseason between LAT and stuff that Gentlemates was trying to swoop in and get either the duo of Hydra and Scrap, or Hydra, Scrap, and Envoy, and then plus somebody else. So another big what if, I guess, is just what if the LAT super team doesn't sign with Thieves and goes to Gentlemates / LAG instead. Obviously, Gentlemates had a as you outlined, a pretty rough season this year, but it could literally what does, I think, this is all hypothetical at this point, but if LAT missed out on getting Scrap, Envoy, and Hydra, I feel like Ghosty would have stayed with LAT. So it would be a very big question of who would, maybe Linz is the 4th guy on that Gentlemate squad. I mean, Linz, Hydra, no, that doesn't make sense. It would have to be another AR. Maybe Envoy plays an AR. I don't know. But then what does LAT's roster look like? And does is that a case of Gentlemates is winning these championships and LAT isn't it champs? That's a pretty big what if that I just thought of.